Did you know? School Sport Victoria offers 650,000 sporting opportunities in 31 different sports at 10,700 events across the state every single year. That's a lot of kids playing sport. And for over 25 years, the Victorian School Sports Awards have recognised more than 1,500 students, teachers and volunteers for excellence and outstanding contribution to school sport. Now that's a champion effort.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Ask SSV show. We've got the very lovely Kelly Hetherington who's joining us today as our special guest. How are you, Kelly?
I'm very well, Raph. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm very good. It's a beautiful day outside. Doesn't really matter because we're inside. Our bandwidth is good today. Your bandwidth is good, so we're looking forward to a great show. Now, what we've got is some amazing achievements. Let me introduce you with some of these achievements that Kelly Hetherington herself has achieved. 2011 Australian Championships silver medal. 2011 World Uni Games. 2013 IAAF World Championships in Moscow. 2013 Australian 800 metre Championship gold. You were also selected for the World Athletics Championship, 2014 Commonwealth Games and the 2015 World Relay Championships where you came home with a bronze. Quite an achievement for a young woman. Which of these was the best? Which of these was the sweetest victory for you?
Oh, I think my national win was probably my favourite out of all my races that I've ever run, including World Champs. And I think close second would be our World Relays, just as athletics is such an individual sport. So it's so nice to have a success with the team and my close friends. So it was really good.
Brilliant. We're going to go to one of the videos in a second, but tell me, who was on the World Relay team with you? Who was on the World Relay Championships team with you?
Yep, so it was myself, it was Abby Delamont, Brittany McGowan, Kat Katasavakis, and Selma Kajan.
What a team. What a team.
Such a fun team to go away with. It was awesome.
Well, we're going to put some of this in perspective right now. So just watch this video. This will put in perspective for everyone watching the race. And this is your, in particular, the 800 metre win in the Australian Championships in 2013. Here we go.
So away in the women's 800 final, Harper, Kiara, Russell, Smith, Lehman, Hetherington, Kyan and Platten on the outside. In the figure of Kelly Hetherington here, striding out in front here. She's been winning every time she starts this season and threatening the World Championship B qualifier of 2:01.5. Smith, the New Zealander, right in behind her. She challenged her for at least 400 or 500 metres of the race at the Melbourne World Challenge last weekend. But it's Hetherington stating her intentions in the early stages with a 3 to 4 metre lead over Angela Smith. Anna Lehman, the New South Wales champion, settling into third position, and it's very exciting. Junior Georgia Russell sitting in fourth position, but it's Hetherington, 2 to 3 strides in front here. The time at 400 will be important, anything under 60 seconds, and you can expect 2 minute performance, 2:01.5, very good on track for a World Championship qualifier here if she can maintain this pace. Smith tried to challenge her at about this stage at the Melbourne World Challenge beat, and she's certainly lifting. Now she's starting to make up some ground, and this very exciting junior from New South Wales, Georgia Russell, is going right out after them. So Hetherington in front, up to that straight. Angela Smith and Georgia Russell, only 17 years of age, is having the run of her life. It's Kelly Hetherington in front at 600. They're still on track for a World Championship qualifier here as they go through 600. Smith, what's the biggest danger to Kelly Hetherington, the Victoria with Georgia Russell doing everything she can to go with them. Kelly Hetherington trying to lift. Angela Smith right there.
Now tell me, Kelly, when you watched that again, I had the privilege of watching your face while you were watching the video, but tell me, what goes through your mind?
Oh God, I love that race. Even watching it now, it still makes me nervous, even though I know I don't know. That's just my favourite race. I love Sydney. That was probably always my favourite place to race in the whole wide world. So I kind of get goosebumps. I'm like, oh, I wish I was still that fast, I think.
Pretty special, pretty special. Now, tell me, where did it all start for you? Where did athletics start for Kelly Hetherington?
Yeah, so I started in under sevens. I grew up in Queensland. My sister did little arts and I was a little copycat. So whatever sport she played, I played. So I started little arts, but I also played a million other sports all growing up. So athletics wasn't at all a focus. It was just something really fun and something that I was okay at in some events and then terrible in others. So I think
Tell me, very
yeah.
good. Now, what part did school sport play for you in regard to, your journey in school sport and your journey to World Championships and Com Games? What part did they play for you?
I played a huge part in just the experience side of things, I guess, and getting used to being on a team and away with the team. It was also just a great opportunity to race all the time because we don't really, as seniors, get a chance to race as much as when you're younger. So for me, it was just that constant competition, learning about call rooms, learning about how to handle your nerves. And it was just a bit of a taste into what it would be like as a senior athlete. So for me, it was just the perfect stepping stone for a senior athlete. Wow.
Fantastic. Can you remember, you don't need to remember exact dates, although it'd be good if you did. Can you remember when you were selected for Team Vic teams? Because you made quite a number.
Oh, God. I was a proud Queenslander. I hate to say it on our podcast. And I only moved to Melbourne when I was halfway through year 6, so 2000 was the first time. I actually moved 1 week before a national cross country, so I ran for Queensland then, what a trader. And then that season was the first time I'd run for Team Vic. The first team was in 2000, and I was lucky enough to make every team leading up to year 12. So I was quite a regular on the team, and it was such a fun environment to be part of. I was happy to be part of it every year.
That's so. How many times did you make a national team then, in school?
I was lucky enough to make cross country and athletics. I'm pretty sure every year. I had a little bit of a break from 16, 17, but I think I still went to school nationals despite I just didn't train outside of school or do outside of school athletics. So pretty much consistently made the team every year in cross country, which I was not as good at, and then in ATS, which was my stronger point.
Now, you talked a little bit about pressure just before, but tell me, looking back on what you know now, what would you say to your 12-year-old self now?
Oh, gosh. I would tell my 12-year-old self just to relax. Like I used to get, and I still do get so nervous when I'm training and running because I put such a high expectation on what I want to do. So I would tell 12-year-old Kel just to chill. Just it's not the end of the world. I never had the external pressure at all. It was just I got so nervous because I really wanted to do well every time. And I think 12-year-old Kel needed to know that you can't actually win all the time and you can't run your best and you can't run PBs every time you run. And I think I was lucky enough to be in all other sports, but I would definitely tell 12-year-old Kel to keep at all the sports because they're so important for other aspects of your life. And just keep enjoying it. I think at that age, it's all about enjoyment. So just have fun. Run. Doesn't matter what you come.
You're so right there, Kel. Enjoyment is so much a big part of what keeps you in sport. In my opinion, not only just for that age of 12 years old or 13 years old, but even up to 19, 20, you need to have some form of enjoyment factor in order to keep going because as you know, athletics, there isn't a great deal of a draw card with finance. Finance is, you don't do it for the money, that's for sure. So you need some other motivation.
Yeah, and I think even as a senior athlete, if you don't enjoy it, there is no way you're going to continue on because you're choosing to spend your weekends on an athletics track instead of other things that normal teenagers might be doing. So there's a lot of choices that you make to do running. So you have to love it. Otherwise, it's kind of, you're never going to really continue on in the sport, I think.
What is it that you enjoyed and even still to this day enjoy, because you're still competing? What is it that you still enjoy about the sport? What keeps you going?
I think my training group really keeps me going because I'm in a group with 12 other middle distance girls, and we get to train, and it's just like catch up time. We love it when we're there to train hard. Obviously, I should have said before, you can't love every aspect of it. I don't love when I'm on the ground having a vomit after a session. But the main part of it we love. So in our warm-up, we're chat. During the session, it's game on, warm down, chat. So I love it because that's where I get my social fix. It's so much fun going to training. And there's no real other aspects in life that you can push yourself like you can on a sporting field or a track. So it's just so important to get a rush. For me, I get that rush every time I'm running, and just the endorphins that come in. You can't buy that.
No, that's so true. And I know some of the girls that you've just mentioned that are in your training group, you all seem to push each other. You all seem to sharpen each other. And I'm sure that there was a time when in your form, you were the one that everyone was chasing. So that would obviously play in itself, wouldn't it, in the training group?
Yeah, 100%. We've got Katrina Bissett at the moment in our group, who's the Australian record holder, a 158 runner. So at the moment, it's all about, chasing Trina. And when we're not going, if we're not doing an international season, it's all about helping Trina. So it comes, it comes and goes. I'm now not, the fastest that I've ever been. So it's so nice to be in a pack that you get pulled along, but also able to help out others that are running better than me. So I think that's what I like. It's an individual sport, but in our group, it's really teamly. And if someone's got a big race coming up that others aren't doing, it's all about helping them and vice versa.
And if there's anything I know about Kelly, I love a lot about Kelly, but you definitely love to help other people. That's definitely in your blood. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, I do love a help, and I do love getting help. So it comes both ways again.
Now, you talked a little about pressure before, and, obviously wearing the green and gold would have brought a layer of pressure to you. I want to break it up into two parts. As a 12-year-old girl, 13-year-old girl, you said you would give yourself some advice. Just relax, Cal, enjoy it. Where did the pressure come from as a 12-year-old girl? Because the reason I'm asking is we get a lot of teenagers, a lot of kids that put what I would consider absolute unnecessary pressure on themselves. And sometimes you can trace it back to the parents, but often it's the pressure that comes from themselves. Where did it come from you?
Oh, my parents, I'm very lucky. They were not pushy parents. So whatever I chose to do was what I chose to do, which was really nice. And I know that's not the case for everyone, but for me, I was pretty lucky. So my whole pressure was about what I wanted to achieve. It was more about, I set myself goals, and I've always been a big goal setter, and it was all about reaching those goals. So if I didn't, it was that stress for myself to not reach them. And so I think I put so much pressure on every race, because when you're younger, sometimes you can keep running your personal best race after race after race, but eventually it's going to have to stop. You can't run well every time. So I think the pressure for me was just trying to run my best all the time, and that's really tiring.
Yeah, I'd imagine it would be very tiring, both physically and mentally. How did you cope with the pressure of wearing the green and gold for the first time, which was in 2011, yeah.
Yeah, probably not that well, I wouldn't have thought. I was probably the most nervous I've ever been. I didn't know whether to run on the start line or go to the bathroom. So I think as I got older, and especially now, I realised that it's just a race, and I go through worst case scenarios in my head, and it all in the end is not that serious. So I think it's just for me now about just relaxing. But at the time, it's so much pressure in your first international competition. You want to run a time that you've never run before, which is really hard in heats and rounds of an 800, and it's just there's thousands and thousands of people watching you compared to at home sometimes where you can see your family in the crowd. So it was just. Yeah, I think I didn't probably handle it as well as I could have, but I still performed well. It was just, internally I was probably a mess. So it wasn't my
I'd imagine so. What would you then say to any teenager out there who wants to be a distance runner or 800, 15, or even a sprinter or a long jumper, whatever it might be, but wants to represent their country, what advice would you give them?
I'd say you need to enjoy the process and don't get so worried about your long-term goal, because every little stepping stone is just as important as the end goal. So if you don't get your steps right, then you're probably never going to achieve exactly what you want. And it's all about having fun during the process. I know that sounds crazy, but if you're not enjoying it, you're not mentally, emotionally, physically happy, and that's what you need to compete your best. So if there's no joy in it, I don't know if you can really achieve everything that you need to.
Very good. Look, apologies that we continue to go off script, but every time you say something, I think of a different question that I don't have in the script in particular, but that's all right. You love ad-libbing anyway.
Okay.
Did you have goals as a teenager, as a 10, 12, 13-year-old girl?
Always. I've had goals about the weirdest little things. Like in netball, I'd have a goal of, if I wanted to get this many, I was a goal attack, so this many shots. And swimming, I wanted to get this many strokes in, or do so underwater. So I think I was always really goal orientated, even as a young child, because I liked having something to work towards and knowing that once you've achieved it, you can kind of tick it off. I think I liked that. And as an adult, I've learned that goal setting is actually really important for everything to do in life. So it's actually really set me up for adult life now, because your goals completely change from when you're younger. But it's just so important for me to have something written down, so then I can go back, reflect, maybe I didn't get them, I could reassess them, and if I did get them, tick them off and set a new one. So it's all about accountability for me, really.
Now, going back again, when did the dream, let me rephrase it. Did you have a dream of representing your country, and when did that start?
I always did, because I was always such an athletics nerd. I was one of the people that lined up for God knows how many hours to get Kathy Freeman and Melinda Gates Taylor's autograph back in the day.
Wow.
I just used to love it. Growing up in Queensland, they were Queenslanders, so it was so cool. I always loved and was so inspired by elite athletes. And I think from a young age, I always envisioned myself running. But that dream actually stopped when I hit, I think, 15. I decided, no, that's not what I want to do anymore. So it did change, but from a young age, I always thought, oh, that'd be really cool to be, on the TV and having a run.
So you hit the age of 15, things started to change for you. What year was that? Can you remember?
I think I went to school China trip, and I think in year 9, once I got home about that year 10, I kind of started thinking, oh, look, maybe I don't want to train outside of school anymore. I went to a school where you had to do sport, so that wasn't even an option, but that's not what I didn't enjoy. I think it was more so that I was prioritising other things over running, and I used to train a really far away place from home, and so mum and dad were driving me all this way for me to be like, oh, I don't even know if I want to do it. And parents now probably think, oh my goodness, that's so frustrating. So it got to the stage where it was, really commit or not, and I chose not to. But I still did school sport, and some of my best memories kind of of my whole running career. But I just got a bit sick of training outside of school, and I didn't train that much even in hindsight. I think it was like 2 days a week I might have gone and trained elsewhere. But I got lazy. That's pretty much it.
Well, I wasn't there, but I would definitely not call you lazy, that's for sure. Because interestingly, we'll talk about this a bit later, you've come back to compete. So you've had a bit of a break and all that. But look, I've always had, you can't see my hand, I've always had a massive respect for you right up there. But while I was doing the research and the background on you, I felt my respect levels go even higher, because you're quite remarkable in what you've had to overcome. Tell us, 2011 was a great year for you. You got the Australian Championship, you got gold and all of that. But toward the end of 2011, life threw you a curveball. What happened?
Yeah, so that was kind of the start of the undoing. My long-term coach, Maxine Corker, and we just got back from World Unis in China. And she started, a few little things weren't quite adding up. She started to feel really unwell. And she ended up getting diagnosed with a brain tumour, and within 7 weeks passed away. So for me, that was kind of my my blanket in athletics, my safety blanket. So I'd been with Maxine since I was a school kid. So that just took a real toll on me mentally, physically, emotionally. As it would, Maxine was, like my second mother and one of my mentors. So that was extremely hard. But I was lucky that her husband, Danny, kind of stepped in with my training. So it kind of felt like Maxine was still part of my journey, which probably made it a little bit easier. But I mean, yeah, it wasn't a great time.
No, I'd imagine it wouldn't have been. But then you picked yourself up, you dusted yourself off, and you started 2012 with another bang. You were in blistering form. London Olympics were obviously on the cards and in your sights. Then what happened?
Then one of the races in Sydney, actually my favourite track, let me down that day. I wasn't well, and I was kind of saying to my now husband, I was like, I don't know if I should race. I'm really dizzy. I'm really sick. I feel really weak. But as everyone knows, you're stubborn as an athlete. So I thought, I'll just race, see how it goes. And it didn't go well at all, which in hindsight is obvious. But a week after that, I went to try to get back to training, and I said to my coach, my legs just aren't lifting. Like, I think I'm running, but I look down and my legs aren't lifting. And so he's like, you have to go to the hospital. And I was diagnosed with a thing called Guillain-Barré, which is an autoimmune disease that kind of shuts down your body. So that was a bit of a surprise from what I thought was just, a little bit of not feeling great.
I'll bet. Now, I did a little bit of research on Guillain-Barré, and it actually potentially could lead to paralysis. Was that I mean, that's how serious it was for you. Is that what was going through your mind, or what the doctors were kind of talking about for you?
Yeah, well, it kind of got up to my hips and then sort of stopped, mainly on my left leg. I wasn't paralyzed, I could still walk, but I had no reaction. I had no jump. I had no drive at all. And we caught it really early. I was still in the back of my head thinking, no, I could probably maybe play out for the Olympics still. This is all fine. And then I kind of realised how serious it was. And it ended up being, I think, 6 months of bed rest and nothing before I was kind of well and clear enough to get on. But in hindsight, looking back, I realised how lucky I actually was. So, yeah, it wasn't great.
So you've had 2 curveballs thrown at you, totally not your doing, nothing you were doing wrong. It's not as if you were going out drinking or doing stupid things. You were doing everything right. Remarkable. I take my hat off to you, Kelly, that you bounced back from that. And you obviously had some good support around you. You talk about your now husband and your coaches and your team and all that stuff. I think it's remarkable.
Thank you.
Now, looking at Tokyo Olympics got postponed. What was your reaction when that got postponed?
Sadness for everyone, knowing how much effort and time gets put in to an Olympic round. You don't just start training for the Olympics a few months before. This is a 4-year process for every athlete. And we had so many Aussie athletes that were in the absolute form of their lives. So I just felt sad for them, just knowing that they peaked for something that's now not on. I know in the scheme of the world at the moment, it's not a big deal, but these are still, that's their lives. So, and they've sacrificed, I don't like the word sacrifice, but they've chosen so many things over other things they might have liked to have done. So, and put families on hold and everything on hold. So it's just, it's really devastating for people.
It would be, and some of those athletes would be, that you mentioned before, Katrina Bissett, Patrick McSween, we've got just so many other athletes that were in peak form, but then you've got others that were not in their peak form, and a year is going to actually do them really good. I mean, it's difficult for the ones that were in form to stay in form for an extra 12 months, but so it's a bit of a give and take. You talked about not liking the word sacrifice. I actually like your concept of sacrifice. Why is it, if I was to say to you, what sacrifices have you made, how would you answer that?
I would say I've made none, because I haven't made any sacrifice. I've made lots of choices that to others might seem like sacrifices, but to me, I chose to do it. No one forced me to do it, so it wasn't a sacrifice. I was happy with my choices. Lots of people might not be happy with an athlete life or a full-time. sort of what a full-time athlete looks like. But for me, it was a choice that I made, and I was never upset about it.
Love that concept. Now, what have you been doing to keep yourself active during COVID?
I've been doing a lot of running from home. So I've been doing it, just a lot of running with my husband. Now that we're allowed to train with friends, kind of back to that, which is really nice. I was doing a lot of home circuits, like I think everyone was, and just lots of YouTubes. I've got into YouTube Pilates and yoga and things that I probably neglected throughout my running. So yeah, I just kind of try to keep my same routine, so I had some sort of normality in my life, so I wasn't completely freaked out. But I mean, you don't train as well on your own, I don't think. Well, I definitely don't without a group. So it was just an adaptation, I think. It was just like another thing. Everyone was in the same boat. There was no one that was getting to train in their groups. So it was all just about, you know, keeping fit without smashing yourself during the weird time it was.
I mean, thankfully, the restrictions are just starting to lift, and we'll see what happens on Monday with the new announcement. But if I know Kelly, it would have been tough, as relational as you are, to not have people around. How did you stay connected and stay just in the friendship groups? Because you absolutely love people. There's no doubt about it.
I love friends. We had so many Zoom calls, so many Skype calls. In the end, I think I was talking to my friends more, and I used to finish the day and I'd say to Luke, I'm like, I'm exhausted. I've just been talking all day. So yeah, I kept it up that way, and my friends were everyone was in the same boat. So everyone was so keen for an online chat. So pretty much we just kept that going. Our training group has a online messenger, and everyone every day was just putting in fun things
great.
to keep everyone involved and active. So it was just about, you know, checking in on everyone and your friends to make sure everyone's okay. But for me, it was a very social time online, virtual. It was good.
Very good. Now, we've got you talk about virtual, we've got School Sport Victoria's got a virtual cross country. We'd love to see Kelly Hetherington's time up there submitted online. We've got it open for staff or people like you. Have you seen our launch of that?
I have seen the launch, and I was thinking, oh, well, I don't qualify. What a bummer.
Well, we'd love to see you up there. If you want to take it up, that's up to you.
Oh, that sounds good.
Now, going back when you were in 2011, start of 2011, start of 2012, in blistering form, what would a typical training week look like for you back then?
Yeah, a training week for me, I was still kind of building up into more of a senior training style. I didn't get back into it for a while, and Maxine was always really careful because, and this is my coaching philosophy too now, I just don't think you need to overdo it when you're younger, and you need to let your body develop, and you need to, slowly, gradually build up into full-time load. So then I was training generally on the track 3 times a week during track season, and then off track I'd be 2 nights of longer work, 1 night track. I just started introducing weights, so I used to have a weights coach and see them 2 days a week, and then I was jogging a few other days. Always had a complete rest day. And my Ks were quite low compared to my competitors. But, when I'm starting out, I'd rather get quality than quantity, and I'd rather, maybe be a little underdone but not injured. So that was kind of our philosophy was, tick all the boxes, do enough, but don't overdo it, because that's going to just end up in sidelining yourself for a while.
Very good. Now, just looking at what does life look like for Kelly Hetherington, Kelly Peel, now you're married. What does life look like for Kelly Peel now? Because you've gone back to competing. You're actually part of Models Club. I love seeing you out on the track. I love the fact that you are there, and I've never talked to you about this, but I'm sure you're there not just to compete, but also to pass on some tips and tricks to the youngies that are there. I think that's fabulous. You're out there, and you're a fantastic role model for the girls and the boys. But tell me, what does life look like for you now?
Pretty much the same as it did before. I love Milers Club. I just think I used to race so much when I was in good form, and then for some reason I didn't keep racing as much. And I think that for me was the key to success, because I would race, and I wouldn't just race my event all the time. I would race different events. I'd race a 15, a 400. I'd race with boys. I'd race with girls, and that just kept me excited by running and allowed me to try out new strategies and also get a more of a group feeling and get to know everyone else that you're running with. So now that I've done a full, I guess, circle and back again, I just love seeing how many people the Miles Club get, and I just love being part of it. I like pacing. I like helping out others, but I also like stopping when you feel tired. That's the beauty of pacing. You get a lap and then you can stop. And I just like, I guess, supporting something that's really helped me in my athletics career, and continuing to support them is really important.
Well, I know Tim loves having you on the track as well, but I don't know what it was like back then, because I'm only really new to athletics since my son got involved. But I'm hearing, and I'm part of helping the team with the live stream and all that. But what's incredible is that they're getting record numbers. They're getting record athletes participating, which I think is a phenomenal effort from the drive that the team does to make that happen. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree. The Milers clubs, when I first started it, were, really popular within the runners, but maybe didn't get the huge numbers. And now you go down to a Milers club and, there's 35 races of all different levels and abilities and ages. And it's just such a good thing. It's, $10 entry or something. And you get a really good, generally paced race. It's an official timing, and it's a really fun event that I just think more athletes could be part of. And you do see now so many of the elite athletes go down and they're running, Australian times or Australian qualifiers at a Milers club because they're just such good quality races. So it's both for the, real elites, and it's really cool also for people that maybe aren't elite to see, you go on a Thursday night and there's your Australian champion out there running, like your Trina Bissett's and, the boys, they're pretty quality races. So for a junior to say, oh yeah, it's good enough for, our Australian record holder, it's definitely good enough for me.
Yeah, and you hit something on the head. You hit the nail on the head just before that. When you go out there, it's a very low-key event, but it's a high-level event, if that makes sense. So it's relaxed. You can go and see the Kelly Hetheringtons of this world go out there and smash it, and little champions that the emerging athletes get to watch. Those athletes get autographs mixed with them, even warm up with them. It's quite an amazing way, and I love the way they stagger it, where they start with the F, the G races, and then move right up to the A races, and it makes it very exciting to watch.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you mentioned a really good thing about warming up together. How often do you get to warm up with Australia's best athletes on the same track at a Box Hill athletics track? It's a pretty unique event, and it's so cool because all the senior athletes always have time to juniors, which is just wonderful because they're our next generation of runners. So it's so good to just see everyone out there. Very
good. Now, how has sport set you up to succeed in life?
Yeah, I guess I've learned so much from sport that if I wasn't an athlete, I wouldn't have learned. I think the main one for me is probably resilience. I've learned to overcome setbacks that I didn't plan on or that I didn't want. I've learned about hard work. I've learned about goal setting. I've learned about friendships. I've learned about motivation. I've just learned so many things that as a maybe non-athlete, you probably wouldn't learn about, hard work towards goals in a different sense, and you wouldn't learn the motivation needed and the perseverance, and just, I think the resilience thing for me, though, is something that just sticks out when I think of what I've learned is just overcoming setbacks. For me is my main one.
Yeah, that's a definite thing that you've learned, and I think something that would be a huge value to pass on to other people, and I know you're doing that in yourself. So tell me, what's next for Kelly? What's the next thing that you've got your eyes set on?
Getting back to work. I cannot wait to go to normality again. I'm just looking forward to going back to working full time. I'm looking forward to training again with our training squad. I'm just looking forward to normality for me and just getting back to I guess, life before COVID, if that's hopefully a thing.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, what hopefully is it's been good that you and Luke have spent so much more time together than you normally would, I'd imagine, and that's helped solidify your relationship. Would that be right?
Oh, well, I've got him home from Singapore. He's been living there for 7 months. So the poor thing's working Singapore hours from home. So to have time together is an understatement, but that's very a loose term saying, yeah, a lot of it's spent working by him.
Right.
But it's good to have him back in Australia.
True, and good to have an income too. That's a certain thing in this day and age as well. And I know you like to stay busy, and that's really good. So how can people get in touch with you if you've got a parent out there that's listening to the video or the podcast and wanting to ask some questions, or even a teenager listening to podcasts wants to get in touch? How can they get in touch with you?
The easiest way is probably, I don't know if everyone uses it, but Instagram. So my handle's at Kelly Hetherington, which is HETH. And yeah, if you send me a message on there, I'm more than happy to write back. And I'm pretty sure it even has my email address attached to my Instagram page. So if anyone has any questions, any thoughts, any feedback, please, get in contact. I'd be happy to write back.
Yeah, we've got your Instagram handle in your show notes. I did think that you were going to mention Instagram, so we jumped on board there and put that in the show notes. So look at the notes both in the podcast and the show, and you'll be able to see Kelly Hetherington's handle. It's been so good to have you on board, Kelly. We certainly look forward to continue to champion you in your journey and high-fiving you, well, when we're allowed to high-five, elbowing you when we're seeing you at the track and seeing you at training and seeing you at Milers Club and all of that stuff. We just love having you as an ambassador. You are a fantastic role model for all the littlies out there that are emerging athletes wanting to represent their country. They look to you, I'm sure, as a role model in distance running.
Thanks, Raph. Gee, what a talker. That's hard to beat, but thank you. It's awesome to be in.
Not hard, and I could continue to talk you up for hours on end, but I won't do that.
You'll bore everyone.
No, not true. So if you're out there, jump on the virtual cross country. We've got Morgan Mitchell who's joining us next week for episode number 10. We've only been doing this for a short while, but we're loving the hits we're getting on our podcast, which is good. But otherwise, Kelly, we will see you around, and I'm sure we'll connect with you in some future event.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for listening, everyone.